We're going to talk about the 1968 album by Iron Butterfly, In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida. Now, this album sold 8 million copies in its first year, and it was the largest selling album of 1969. Ironically, Iron Butterfly was a one hit wonder, but this one album really sold a lot. Now, the album cover itself, it's paper glued over cardboard. You can look at the back. You can see how the front paper wraps around, and then you've got this just square sheet that is glued on the back. The front cover is one of the great psychedelic covers of all time. You've got the band just down here at the bottom, and then this huge psychedelic background. The font is a psychedelic font. You've got Iron Butterfly in In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida. I think part of their success was the album cover on this and just hitting the market at just the right time. The psychedelic movement in rock was really hitting big in 1968, and they just put out the right album at the right time to just really take advantage of that. Now, besides the psychedelics on the front, I'm not sure if this is a marble or what they've got here, but it looks like they've duplicated it. Couple of different things. One, you've got the word stereo in the upper corner. At the time, in 1968, you couldn't guarantee that all records was stereo. Stereo was really still a new thing. So they put records up there or had to put the word stereo on their albums. Down in the lower left-hand corner, you've got the album company name, Atco, which is Atlantic Records. And the album number SD33-250. One quirk, which I'm going to point out because I play the drums, so I'm familiar with this, is you notice on his drum set, having the front off was common. And he didn't have the bottom heads, which was common at the time too, but he's got a tom that doesn't match the rest of his set. This looks like it's a tom either off of a Slingerland or Ludwig club set, which you can tell from the way it's painted, and it just completely is a mismatch for the rest of the set. It's kind of unusual to at least not have your toms matched, but have that much of a mismatch is kind of strange. You don't usually see. But that's really all there is in the front cover. It's really, when you think about it, a very simple front cover, but it really stands out with this big psychedelic background, and it just screams, this is a psychedelic album. On the back, again, the back cover is in black and white. This was common for the time also. They would spend the extra money on the front and do a colored front to kind of draw people in, but then they go cheap on the back and do kind of a black and white back to save a few dollars here and there. You've got the psychedelic title, again, lettering In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida and Iron Butterfly. You've got the word stereo in big letters up here, big enough where you can't miss it. And again, the Atlantic Records or Atco symbol and the album number on the front. As far as the text goes, it looks like it was written by a promo guy as a huge sales pitch. I'm not sure how much of this is accurate. It is so over the top. As a sales pitch, it's hard to really take any of it seriously. Just starting up at the top with a little bit, it says iron, symbolic of something heavy as in sound. Butterfly, light, appealing, and versatile, an object that can be used freely in the imagination. The group was new, music different. At first, their following was limited to the LA underground, the hip young local fans who listen and keep up on new sounds and trends. I won't go on because it sounds like it's all made up out of thin air simply by the promo guy. The biographies, I'm not sure they're any more accurate. I know this band was from Southern California, San Diego specifically, but the biographies make them sound like they're an international group of musicians with long experience, which is not true. But yeah, they were from Southern California at the time. Most of the rock bands were being pulled from Southern California or the London area in England. But for the United States, yeah, they were pulling. That's where the record companies were located, and they were signing just about every local band they could get a hold of because rock had exploded um, in the mid '60s, and every album label was short of rock bands. So they were trying to sign as many as they could. And Iron Butterfly was one of those bands that got signed in this mid '60s rush. Uh, but again, you've got pictures of each member of the band. Uh, Not particularly good pictures in black and white, but it's enough in a short biography that may or may not tell you something true about the guy. I have no idea on here. Down at the lower right, you finally get some linear notes that make some sense. You've got the name of each of the songs. Side one has 5 songs on it. Side two has one, which is their big song, In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida, which was originally written as In the Garden of Eden, but the singer mumbled it so badly they just changed the title to In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida, kind of nonsense words. But they were really a one-hit wonder with this song. At the time, though, this song was cut down from 17 minutes to 3 minutes for the radio. Remember, in the mid-'60s, AM radio was king, and they wouldn't play a song much over 3 minutes. So again, another progressive or psychedelic act who had its large song cut down. It's kind of like Yes, whose biggest song Roundabout, when that was their biggest hit, but it was cut down from 7 minutes, I think, to 2.5. And it was the 2.5 version minute version, ironically, gave them their first hit song. But their Iron Butterfly's only hit song was the 3-minute version of In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida. I remember hearing this on the radio, the full version in the mid '70s on FM radio, but at the time, the '60s, FM radio was still kind of niche, almost non-existent, and if you couldn't get your song on AM, you couldn't get it out there, so they cut it down to a 3-minute version. Um, the rest of the linear notes are pretty standard, but you've got the publisher here, 10 East Cotillion, Itasca, BMI. They're a BMI group instead of ASCAP. Tells you where it was recorded at Gold Star Studios in Hollywood and Ultrasonic Studios in Long Island. Recording engineers Jim Hilton. Photos are Stephen Paley. Linear notes are Ron Tepper, so we probably have Ron Tepper to blame for these terrible linear notes on the back here. That's just salesman promo stuff instead of something that's actually interesting about the band. Album design, Lori Utemi. It's produced by Jim Hilton and a Green and Stone production for New York Pala. Here's the RIAA statement, just letting you know that it's a regular record. And then the copyright, which is a C copyright 1968 Atlantic Recording Corporation. And it's printed in USA. Then you've got the Atco Records, 1841 Broadway, New York, New York, 1023, distributed by Atlantic Recording Corporation. And that's the back. And you see up here, there's a slight tear, but you can see into the just that cardboard that's under there, under the paper. It's that old grayish, browny gray color that's just the cheapest cardboard you can buy. The only other thing on the outside are is the spine of the album, and it's got the word stereo in blue, and then Iron Butterfly, In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida, and then Atco, and the record number SD33-250 on the edge. So that's the outside. Let's talk about the inside, which is actually kind of interesting too on this particular album. Uh, Sleeve that came in was actually an advertising jacket, and it's got a bunch of albums on it. If you see down here in the lower corner, it's got the word Rock-3. So it lets you know which type of album this was supposed to go into, and it features a bunch of albums by Atlantic Records. On here are their subsidiaries. I can't find any album newer than 1972. Close to the Edge came out in 1972. Rolling Stones, Exile on Main Street came out in 1972. ELP's Trilogy came out in 1972. So that leads me to think that the pressing for this particular album was 1972. Which is kind of impressive when you think about it. This album was originally recorded and released in 1968. They were a one-hit wonder, and yet here they are 4 or 5 years later still pressing this album, and it was still selling. I understand this album sold over 30 million copies altogether. And like I said, it was the largest selling album of 1969. So yeah, for a one-hit wonder, they sold a lot of albums of that one album. If we look at the record label itself, uh, we'll start with side 2. You've got uh, it's the yellow Atco color wheel label. This one was used from 1968 to 1974. What and you can tell that because of the 1841 Broadway, New York. In 1970, sometime during 1974, they changed that address to 75 Rockefeller Plaza, and they used that from mid 74 through 1977. So this was the 68 through 74 label. It's even though all the fonts are sans serif, they're just a mishmash of fonts. None of them look like they really go together. I mean, the font for the band name and album name, Iron Butterfly, In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida, doesn't seem to go with the name of the song, In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida. It looks different than the 2 in stereo. And that looks different than the line at the bottom where it says manufactured by Atlantic Recording Corporation. So not much thought into trying to match up those fonts. And this was actually, kind of common during this period too. It's like the label with a lot of people was an afterthought, but it was such an afterthought, they couldn't even use the same font on everything. But there's side 2. Here's side 1. Again, it's got the list of the songs. The side number is written out 1 or 2, and then you've got stereo in big letters. You've got the Atco color wheel, and then you've got a strange number down here. I'm not sure what that number relates to, but it's not the album number, which is SD33-250. So I don't know what ST-C-681329CT stands for. But that's it for one of the largest selling albums of all time from again the one-hit wonder Iron Butterfly, In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida. We get this let in here. You can see, one of the historic album covers. It's It's one of those you don't really think about being such a huge seller, but it really is one of the biggest albums.